Hi everyone, my name is Charu. Thank you for attending this session. Just a quick show of hands, so I know like how many people have heard of Paytm before. Okay, fair bit. And how many of you are from tech background, and how many of you are from business background? Tech background. Let's do tech background. Tech. Cool, cool, cool. AI. AI/ML background. Okay, cool. And I'm assuming rest of you are from business background. Cool. This is an interesting picture. So this is actually a vegetable vendor on a small street in India. It is very rare for these people to accept any kind of payment except cash. Whereas what you see here is that this guy is actually accepting digital payments using a QR code solution. Um, Paytm is, let me walk through the agenda quickly, what you can expect from this session. So I'll quickly walk you through what you can expect from this session. We'll talk about what Paytm is. Um, I really want to talk about why AI is a necessity for our products. So there is a lot of buzz around um, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and a lot of people see it as, hey, it must be like a nice to have, good to have kind of a thing in your technology stack when you are, especially when you're running it as a startup, right? Um I want to talk about why, from what was sort of the tipping point for us when we figured that it is actually not a nice to have, it's a must have in all of our products. Um, I definitely want to talk about how AWS provides unique value to us for doing this. And I want to introduce you to Pi Cloud, which is Paytm AI Cloud. It's a SaaS-based offering that we have. Cool. So very quickly, it's simple. You will learn about what Paytm is, what businesses we do, and this will set context for how we are using machine learning in most of our products. Then we'll talk about what type of use cases we are trying to solve in different types of products, what type of algos we can use. We can keep it interactive if you want to ask any questions at any point. And then finally, we'll talk about the Pi Cloud. Awesome. What is Paytm? So the QR code that I showed you at the vegetable vendor is something that we have championed in India. We are one of the largest payment methods which is accepted in India. We have about 14 million merchants. Put that in context, it's basically Visa, MasterCard, all the debit cards, combine them, and maybe multiply them by 2 or 3 times, right? So the proliferation of the QR code or Paytm as a payment method is far wider and far deeper in India than any other digital payment method. We are basically we started out with payments. We have an offline payment solution. That's the QR code that you see there. We are also one of the largest payment gateways, online payment gateways in India. So most of the large sites like basically train ticket booking in India, which happens online, all goes through Paytm payment gateway. We started out as a bank 3 years ago. We have over 100 million customers there. We provide things like a checking account, a saving account, fixed deposits, and things like that, salary accounts. Interesting thing here is a lot of government grant dispersals actually happen through these bank accounts because they are digitally connected. And again, it's the whole mission is to bring about 500 million people in India into mainstream economy, and bank is actually a very important pillar for that. Um, while we were doing bank, we actually are a payments bank, so we can't really provide other financial services through that. So we have another companies doing that. So in financial services, we do things like loans, insurance. Digital insurance is actually, we have really disrupted that industry. So we would give insurance on products like when you buy a movie ticket, you can buy an insurance for as little as, let's say, 50 cents or 25 cents. And then if you are not able to make it to the movie, you get your money back. Or you can do it on your bus tickets and things like that, which are fairly disruptive. If you know, thinking, sitting in North America, if you think about those things, they are generally not available over here. We started out a wealth management company also about 2 years ago. We have about 3.5 million customers there. If you compare that with overall number of people in India who actually have access to any type of wealth management, it's very, very low, right? So, I mean, um, what we were able to do is basically take it to tier 3, tier 4 cities and give access to wealth management to people who are making as low as, let's say, $200 a month. $200 a month. They have access to mutual funds now, and they have been able to invest with amounts as low as $1, right? So if the guy ends up making $1 extra on a day, and if he starts investing that, then over a longer period of time, he's actually getting some return. And all of that money is now becoming available in the economy for doing other things, right? Uh, Finally, we have a commerce arm. In commerce, we basically have a physical goods marketplace, a mall, where we are championing the offline to online strategy. As much as we are about e-commerce, we are also championing the offline to online. What that means is that in India, the distribution model is very different. It is not like North America, where you have Best Buys of the world or Walmarts of the world, big box retailers where you just go in and you find all the brands in one place. In India, the way it works is most of the times you have a very large, you have a manufacturer like a brand, let's say Dell, and they will have these authorized distributors in the small cities, right? What we have done is we have basically tied up with them. A customer would walk into a store and they will scan the QR code on the app. Basically, a digital catalog shows up. That guy, the authorized dealer, may not have all the inventory, but customer will be able to see the rest of the inventory which is offered by the manufacturer, order it there, leverage all the offers that we have to provide, and do the transaction on their mobile app, right? And then it can get delivered to this customer's home. So we actually have a logistics network that we manage. Interestingly, we are also into a lot of other digital goods as well. So as an example, we are number two in a movie booking space. So online movie booking in India is pretty big. Movie booking, event booking. We sell 50, 60 million tickets a year there. We are second largest OTA or travel agency. So we basically sell flight tickets, train tickets, bus tickets, hotels, vacation packages. And we do food delivery. So as an example, you want just like DoorDash or Grubhub, you can basically order from a restaurant and it can get delivered to your home. We also do deals. So I think we sell something like 5-6 million deals in a day, where local restaurants or local merchants can basically say that I am running this type of an offer, and then we make the discoverability of that offer very easy, and then do the distribution of those deals. Excuse me. So basically, if you look at this, we are in almost every aspect of a customer's life. If you think about it, like 8 a.m., I have to go and get fresh milk. I would use Paytm. I will go to a dairy and I will basically buy it there. Then I am on my way to office. Either I will drive there or I'll do an Uber. If you are doing an Uber, you will actually use Paytm to make payment to Uber, unlike over here where we can use Visa and MasterCard. Or I will basically fill gas. So for filling gas, I would use Paytm again. If I have to cross a toll plaza like a expressway, then I have to pay a toll. So I can use basically Paytm FASTag solution for that. Parking, cafeterias, if I'm taking metro for a daily commute, if I'm doing any bill payments, if I'm buying any food, if I'm buying groceries online, all of that, you can do all of that on one app, which is Paytm app, right? This is why we have actually evolved into a super app. There are about 200 icons on our app through which you can basically go and fulfill one of your daily use cases. In terms of numbers, we basically have 400 million plus customers in India alone. We have our second largest operation is in Japan, where we have a JV, and the brand name is called Pepe. That's the fastest growth story ever. Actually, it's faster than Facebook. In 1 year, they have gone from 0 customers to 20 million customers, and they are walking towards almost 50 million customers by end of next year. Um, and over there also, for if you go to Japan, you will actually see the proliferation of Pepe QR code is like almost everywhere. You will probably not be able to use Visa, MasterCard. Either you'll be able to use cash or Pepe. Um, we do about 20, 25 million transactions in a day in about 200 different categories, about 8 billion screen views in a month, and about 1.5 billion sessions in a month. The number, I wanted to touch upon the session number and the screen view number. It's because when we will get into how we are using machine learning, and you will see basically the scale that we have to manage. We are getting into like lots of different use cases beyond payments. Also, we have big business services. So basically, the 14 million merchants that we are giving them lots of software solutions. So as an example, they can do their GST calculation, like tax calculation using our software. We will give them wholesale. So basically, we have connection with a lot of wholesale buyers and a network of 14 million merchants. So these guys can buy from the wholesale network and sell on their stores. We give them customer lifecycle. It is very hard for a small merchant to actually buy any type of a marketing solution, versus the app that we give them. They can literally use that app to reach out to customers who are near them, who have purchased at them, customers who are likely to purchase at those stores, and things like that. That's actually very interesting for the small merchant, because it actually helps him drive more traffic to his store, right? And then in the financial services side, for the merchants, we are doing like working capital finance. We are giving them insurance. We are doing wealth management for them, and so on. Cool. Okay. Why is AI? I mean, you saw the wide range of categories in which we are working, and now the question is, so okay, sure, they all look like basically a workflow kind of a thing, backed by a transaction system, right? So you select an item, you do a transaction, and you get out. And so why do you actually need machine learning for any of this stuff, right? The reason is, I think there are 4 key reasons why we do it. First one is with 20, 25 million transactions in a day, and keeping a lot of customers' money in our accounts and their identity in our account. Like basically, when you open a bank account, you have to take their PII data and so on. How do you ensure that you are keeping all of that data really safe, right? So basically, you have to do fraud prevention and identity theft prevention, right? And no better way to do it than using machine learning, because at this scale, you can't really write rules to sort of avoid this type of fraud. Another thing is that when you are in a high growth phase, every company spends some money in marketing, right? So you want to ensure that whatever money you are spending in marketing, your marketing dollar is basically going furthest. And how will that happen? That will happen when you will basically you can ensure that the right customer is actually getting that money, instead of some fraudsters creating fraud accounts or fake accounts, running emulators, trying to get money out of you, right? So we basically use a lot of machine learning in fraud prevention and fake account detection. Second one is that I mean, we are only a 5, 6-year-old company, right? With this level of growth that we have achieved, we could not scale our operations by just hiring people, right? There's just no way that you can hire that many people to run such a large operation. So basically, and we are a tech-driven organization. We were a tech-first company, right? So basically, we have to run a lean operation, because primarily we are in payments business where margins are really, really low, right? And the only way to achieve that is by finding operational efficiencies, by not relying on human interaction for every small thing. I'll give you some examples. Um, when we have to open a bank account in a imagine like a tier 3 tier 4 like a small city, middle of nowhere, and so basically we have some feet on street agents who are doing that, right? But now how do you actually make sure that they are going to the right people to open the bank account? How do you make sure that they are able to open the bank account in minimum amount of time so that customer does not have that friction? We can actually open a bank account in less than 5 minutes. It's all digital. The agent has an app. He goes to the customer. He scans a bunch of documents. Or just right in that moment, OCR happens. We can see that this customer has these credentials. We are connected with the national database, so we can basically verify the identity, and then we can go and open the bank account, right? So a lot of things are happening in the background for that bank account to open in under 5 minutes, and technology has a big role to play in that. Um, Similarly, how do we ensure that our payment gateway costs are in control? And how do we make sure that we are getting the highest success rate? Because payment gateways are largely dependent on the banks. And if the bank goes down, bank servers goes down, then basically you start taking a lot of hit in terms of failed transactions, right? Whereas we have AI-based routing, which ensures that we can predictively sense that this connection might actually start slowing down. So let me start routing my transactions so that I can maximize my transaction success rate while minimizing the overall cost per transaction. Third one is most important one. That's where I have worked most extensively. Super apps, they must have easy discoverability. Like think about the 200 use cases we talked about over here, right? Now imagine I am 8 a.m. in the morning. I have an app. How do I actually figure out that I can buy milk with this app, right? Or if this is 4 p.m., then how do I know that I can actually purchase lunch with this? So obviously one way is that the merchant is doing some kind of an advertising on or showing the QR code and so on. But when I am opening the app, how do I know that this use case is even possible using the app? So discoverability with among that many use cases becomes a challenge. Similarly, on the mall side, you have 100 million products in the catalog. How do you ensure that those products are actually getting discovered by the customers and customers are actually able to buy them, right? So we are solving all those problems. And then finally, you have to figure out there are always competing objectives in any super app. So the competing objectives would be you have a transaction, and which is very important for the company, and you have to manage the user experience. So in terms of discoverability, you can always say that why not just give them simple search, right? You can give a customer search, but that basically adds one extra step for that customer to get to the objective or the use case that they came for. Versus the idea is that you basically show them the thing right away and get out of their way so that they can do the transaction and then they can get out, right? So balancing objectives like that, like how do you make sure that merchant is discoverable? How do you make sure product is discoverable? How do you make sure use case is discoverable? That is the thing that we have to solve, and hence we have to use some of the optimization algorithms for that. Cool. I want to talk about some of the use cases that we are solving in different verticals. So in fraud prevention, the basic one is basically we do like account takeover detection. So in account takeover detection, what happens is a lot of people are creating fake accounts using either stolen. This account takeover is somebody gets basically stolen passwords database, and then they will try to get into your account and they will try to steal the money. That's the use case. So what we would do is we'll figure out where what are the device attributes that we can look at, and then based on that we have come up with certain fingerprints, and then we can say if this is actually the same user or this is a different user who is trying to use this account. Second one is an interesting one, behavioral biometric. It's still in sort of a POC phase, but what we are trying to do is we are trying to, your phone has a bunch of sensors, right? You have a gyroscope, you have a location sensor, then the way you swipe and or the way you type, you have basically, those are all signatures which are unique to you. So we are basically trying to leverage those signals and come up with models to say that, hey, this is what Charu looks like and this is his signature. And then if somebody else starts to use that, if somebody basically steals your device or starts to use your device, then basically we can lock them out on the payment screen, because we can say that we don't think that this is who you say you are, right? Or we can ask for an additional method of authentication. We are also doing things like face pay, where we can do like a face scan, and then based on that, you can we can recognize you and connect with your account, and then basically do the payment. On the lending side, lending is interesting in India because in India you don't really have this concept. You do have a concept of bureau, like the credit bureau that we have over here, but in India only 6% of the population had a bureau score, right? So you can't really do much with that. The type of lending that we do, we really want to empower people with small ticket lending, and it can be as low as $2, right? So you can basically take a loan of up to $2. You can pay it back in about in 30 days, and if you don't pay back, then basically there is a whole cycle that starts after that. But how do you figure out, even if you have a lending file or score bureau file on somebody, you will basically be able to say if I should give them a mortgage or not. A mortgage is a $500,000 mortgage versus a $2 loan. They are two very different things. Plus, you don't really have any ability to actually go and report it back to the bureau. Even if you were to report it back to the bureau, for a $2 loan default, what will bureau do, right? I mean, bureau will say, yeah, okay, I'll keep it on the file, but that is actually not going to have any impact on the customer's lendability in future, right? So what we have done is we have basically taken a lot of different data points about the customer, their transaction behavior, their browsing behavior, location behavior, and we ask for very little information from them, like basically their KYC information, and then we try to approve them in under 5 minutes. So customer provides all this information, we run a scoring model in real time, and then we tell them if they are eligible and then for how much they are eligible for. We do this for different products also. So when you are on our mall and you're trying to buy a product, then at that time we will be able to say, hey customer, we should give you this item at X% versus this item at Y%, and those are basically different offers from the bank. But we would tell the bank that this customer, you should give them this offer at, let's say, 2% or 3%, versus this other customer, there is a slightly higher chance of getting your money back, so do it at a 5%, 6%, something like that. We are actually building the credit score for India now, where we will be, because we have the largest data set, we will be able to use all of this data and give it to the banks, package it for the banks, so that basically they can start reaching out to people who have never taken a loan before, which is called new to credit segment, which is very large in India. And actually, even over here, all the banks are really hungry about how do you get to new to credit segment, which is people who have never taken any loan. We are doing similar things on the insurance, where we are doing premium determination. So like if it's a bus ticket that we are insuring, how do we make sure that we are charging the customer right amount, so that or we are basically saying that this customer has a very high likelihood for cancellation, so what should be the right premium for them. So we are using things like that for you're using some machine learning for that. The last one is a very interesting use case. So the field force optimization. So I talked about agents earlier, right? So we have a lot of agents, about 10,000 in the field. They have an app. They sign up just like Uber driver. They sign up and they say that I want to become a Paytm agent, and then they will do a bunch of things. So as an example, they will go and open a bank account. They will go and onboard a new merchant. Say that, hey, start accepting Paytm as a payment method. They will go and sell these merchants things like insurance and EDC devices and so on, right? how do we tell them what to do in a day, right? So as an example, if there is a merchant who has, let's say, 50 customers around him, how do I actually do sort of the traveling salesman problem for them? So I say that go to this house and then go to this house and then go to this house and so on, right? So we are solving those problems for the merchant. So merchant can literally see on their app in live what are the next steps that they need to do. We also tell them a lot, give them a lot of analytics on are they meeting their targets and so on. Similarly, we are doing things like distribution network. So in what area should we onboard how many merchants? That is another interesting problem we need to solve, because there are only so many merchants that we can sign up, and we have to pay them. So we have to be very conscious about how do we deploy them in the field. Cool. Let me talk about some use cases in commerce. So on the demand side of things, which is basically how do you actually generate demand from the customers, the most important one is app and offer personalization. Our app is 100% personalized. So like the goal that was given to us like 4 years ago was every pixel on the app should be personalized, which means that every widget that you see on the app is personalized, all the content is personalized, and even the layout is personalized. So as an example, for me, I would see deals and icons which are relevant for me at that time in the day, versus for some other people, for other customers, it would be basically, let's say, the entire icon tray may be missing, because we know that this customer is coming here for the first time, they are just discovering things. Show them only one or two important use cases, namely payments or recharges and things like that. We have built an entire marketing automation suite out of this, where the actually, so today all the marketers are driving towards journeys, right? So everyone want to say that I think my customer for this product is going to take a particular journey. They are going to sign up, they will do this first transaction, then they will do this, then I will make them do one more transaction, and so on. And the problem with that approach is that now you are limited by what your marketer has been able to think of, right? It's a straight line journey, maybe with a couple of sort of drip campaigns and things like that. What we are doing in our marketing automation is that we are saying that just create as many campaigns as you want to create, right? Give us some metadata about them, and then we will go and figure out the journey ourselves. So basically, we want the machine to determine what should be the journey at an individual customer level, because every customer is different, right? So for every customer, we want to go and say that, hey, for this customer, actually their journey should start from payment. For this other customer, their journey maybe should start from insurance. Or this customer, their journey, after they have done insurance, they will probably do a wealth management. But for other customers who have done insurance transaction, now they will go and do a recharge transaction and things like that. So journeys have to be flexible. But most of the marketing automation tools which are out there in the market today, they are basically saying that you can build a journey, and that journey is going to be as good as as the person who is building that. So we are basically changing that. We have changed that fundamentally, and that is important for us because we have to balance between 200 different categories, right? On the supply side, we have 14 million merchants. So the first one was for the 400 million customers. Second one is for the merchants. For the merchants, how do we give them some value adds? So as an example, how can I tell merchant, hey, these are your stocking recommendations. Don't keep everything in stock. We know that these are the top selling items in your neighborhood. Only focus on these things, and you will be able to see some increase in sales. And we actually do it in a measurable way. Merchant is able to see these recommendations on their app, and then we can show them what is the net impact of accepting that recommendation. And we also then integrate this with the rest of our supply chain and say that, why don't you buy these items from this wholesale provider that we have, and things like that. We do item level personalization for, which is like item recommendation, category recommendation for customers on all of our mall marketplace app and so on. We are doing some visual similarity Especially this works really well in fashion segment, where in fashion categories, if you have to tell the customer that, let's say I'm searching for a t-shirt, don't really know what kind of t-shirt I'm looking for. I'll typically start my journey by searching for a t-shirt, and then based on 2 or 3 clicks, I'll know, okay, these are the type of styles that this person may be interested in, and then we will go and find out based on some of the visual attributes and find out more t-shirts which look similar to this one. Again, going back to running a lean operation, we do on the customer service side, we basically do the first interaction that you are having. Actually, that is, excuse me, that's with the bot. So the bot will try to answer as much as they can about your concern, because what we are doing in the background is when customer comes on the help page, we are able to encapsulate all the context about all the different transactions that they have done, and then basically form some sort of predefined, pre-canned answers for the customer. Like, hey, where is my transaction? Where is my order? And things like that. And we can give those answers for the customer. Second one is ticket routing. So in ticket routing, if customer still feels that they are not getting an answer from the bot, they can submit a ticket. And then when they do submit a ticket, then we do the routing of the ticket to the right agents, because we have so many different verticals. So one common team cannot have idea about all of those verticals. So that is why we have to do specialized teams, and then we can do the routing for those teams. Cool. So this is a very ugly slide. But I'll still walk you through that. So on the left-hand side, you see all the sources. So we have about 800 odd data sources from which we ingest data. Some of these are real-time, some of them are batch. For the batch ones, most of these are basically MySQL. And for the real-time ones, basically, we have a good event sourcing mechanism in that ingestion layer using Kafka. So basically, we will collect all of that data. And what we do slightly differently is that over a period of time, we have figured out that these are the commonly used data sets. So last year, we figured that a lot of people were doing repeated queries and repeated joins, like similar pattern. So what we have done is we have basically created pre-computed data sets, pre-joined data sets. So as an example, there is a sales order table, which basically has only order level information. And there is a sales order item table, which has an item level information. So typically people would join them because they would want to find out something about a product, or even for the models, we would need it because we want to find out for this product, how many sales happened, like create time series out of it, right? So we have basically started keeping them in the commonly used data set layer, where we basically pre-join them and we cache them so that people are only going against that cache layer. After that, we basically take that into insights, where we give insights to our agents and to our business, saying things like, hey, it looks like there is a drop in transactions in around Venetian from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., whereas typically I see that there are 500 transactions that happen on a regular day. Today, only 400 have happened. Is the PG down? Is one of the merchants is not doing something? Has competition entered into that market? Something like that. So those are basically, we give them early warning signals so that then business can basically ask one of their field guys to go into the market and figure out what's happening. And then obviously we have to do a lot of fine tuning, because we can't really give out a lot of such signals, because then they become useless. So we try to keep it to 5, 6 such anomalies per day for individual verticals. Then we have basically the data serving layer on top of that, which is being used by most of our machine learning tools. We don't really use SageMaker. We are basically using our in-house solutions for that, using Kubeflow and things like that. But in the company, there is a standard way for building models. With the data serving layer, they actually get a data catalog, which basically means that everyone is going to have access to the same data set, same definitions, people want to try out new models, then they can basically go and select data from these models, and then they can use the ML tools to serve one of those use cases. Cool. AWS Advantage, I think for us, it has been really easy for us to do experimentation and scale our operations because we can literally start with a very small example, a POC, and then we can scale it out. We have moved all of our workload, analytics workload, to EMR. Earlier, we were basically running on-prem Hadoop clusters for this, and it was a nightmare. So we've been running all of that on EMR, and now lately we have even been able to use Spot instances for that, which makes it much easier, very cost efficient for us. We start with the managed services, but we don't use managed services always because at our scale it can become, at our scale and our margin, it becomes very difficult to sort of keep on using only managed services. So we try to go to open source as much as we can. But that's basically all of our infra runs in AWS. So yeah. Cool. I want to talk about Pi quickly now. So basically, while we were doing all of these other AI use cases that we were solving within the company, and over a period of time, like I showed you earlier, we have grown into multiple different companies, right? So we started with payments, then we have gone into building a bank, then we have started a financial services company, we have a commerce company, and so on. So we have so many different use cases and different entities that were spun up. So what we have done is basically, actually you should try scanning that QR code. So basically, we figured that the problems that we were trying to solve, basically those are the problems that most of the other companies are also facing, right? And with most of the SaaS solutions, unit economics becomes a fairly big challenge, right? So as an example, if I want to send out emails at a very large scale, or if I want to do fraud prevention at a very large scale, basically most of the SaaS solutions will start cutting into your profit margins. And if you are a company which runs on razor-thin margins, then you have to be very cautious about that, right? So these solutions, off-the-shelf solutions, did not work for us. And we figured that, hey, it must be a problem with other large companies also. And hence we launched our application layer level or SaaS offering, which we are calling Pi Cloud. There are three core advantages of Pi Cloud, and I'll get into some of the solutions. Most of the solutions that I talked about in the use cases slide are basically available through Pi Cloud, but there are three solutions that we are going out to market with. But I want to talk about more than a solution. I want to talk about why Pi Cloud is slightly different, right? So the most important thing is data ownership. So today, data ownership is an important question. And combining your offline and online data is not something that every cloud provider will let you do. And I'm only talking about the application layer, right? So as an example, if you were using, let's say, an analytics provider, then you wouldn't be sending all of your offline retail POS log data to that analytics provider, right? So what we are doing instead is we are saying that we can do deployment of single tenant applications where data ownership is a concern. And this is very important for places where, which are regulated, like financial services organizations, banks, large retailers, right? So we take data ownership seriously. Then, like I was saying earlier, I think all of these solutions actually have machine learning algos baked at the heart of the solution, and that's primarily because we had to run lean operations, and we have basically just taken those exact same solutions, and now we are making it generally available for others as well. Finally, we are battle tested. I'll show you some numbers, but the number of push notifications that we send out, or the number of events that we ingest on a daily basis, those are fairly large. So we, from a tech perspective, we are battle tested. We have been able to run this for all of our 10 plus entities that we have. But from a business perspective also, we are in most of these businesses, so we understand the nuances. So as an example, the marketing automation thing that I talked to you about, right? Somebody will come and tell me that you should basically build a straight line journey, and if you do that, then basically you will achieve growth. But I would argue that, because I have seen that does not work in my use cases, in my system, right? I had to go and tweak journey for every customer, for every use case, and you just cannot do that. You cannot scale that by adding more people in your marketing team. So you have to do that by using machine learning models. Similarly, on the payment routing use cases, we really understand the nuances there. We understand when the bank systems can potentially go down, and when do you have to actually start switching over to other options and things like that. So we understand those nuances, and we have basically baked them into the product. My colleagues tell me I have 5 minutes. So I'll quickly go over this, but basically we have 3 offerings. I'm around here rest of the day. We can, if you have any interest, we can talk more about it. But the first one is growth marketing. Growth marketing is AI first, meant for mobile solution, the marketing automation solution where you can have AI-led customer journeys. So machine learning models are discovering what are the right journeys for the customer, and executing them on all of your channels, not just your offline channels like push notifications and emails and SMS, but also online channels. Like you can basically have site personalization done with this. You can send out promo codes with this. You can even run third-party ads on Facebook ads, Google ads, Criteo ads, and things like that. And the way this is built is that you can basically optimize your entire spend. So you can say that, when I have to do retargeting as an example, typically what most companies do is that as soon as somebody looks at a product page, and they don't purchase, 5 minutes they give it to Criteo, within 5 minutes. And then Criteo will start retargeting you on Facebook, on Google, everywhere else, right? Whereas that is not the right way. You actually have to wait for a bit, and you have to first try to retarget that customer on your own channels, as an example, on push notifications or emails. And then after some time, you basically, when you cannot get anything out of that customer, then you give it to a third party. There are significant savings there. So the second one is basically our fraud and abuse prevention solution, where we provide a very long range of list of models for detecting things like account takeover detection, transactional fraud detection. We have also done some work on the regulatory side of things, because we are a bank, so we have to do things like solutions for anti-money laundering. So we have basically built a graph-based solution for finding out the flow of the money and detecting if this is actually happening between related entities or unrelated entities, and so on. And the last solution is our analytics solution, where we can capture all the data from the customer website, it's like basically a tag manager solution, like equivalent of a Google Analytics or an Adobe Omniture, but available to you in real time, and where you have a lot of control over all of your data. And this can basically tell you this is how this is what your conversion funnels look like. This is where your customers are, and so on. Cool. I think I'll quickly go over some of the numbers. So in terms of these are slightly dated numbers, but what we have seen is for our growth marketing solutions, we are sending about 5 billion push notifications in a month, with a lot of feedback that we get. Like we have deeper analytics. We can see literally when customer clicked on it, when they dismissed it, when they actually acted upon it, and things like that. About 4 petabytes of data is processed for finding out what are the right offers that we should send out to the customers, and 125,000 plus journeys which are executed per month, right? So it is not those 4 or 5 journeys which are executed across all the use cases, more than 125,000. We have seen at least 30% plus engagement rate in most use cases. Let me talk about similar thing on, actually for fraud detection, another thing is that in most fraud prevention solutions, basically you don't really have the historical context. So they don't really let you do bootstrapping with the historical data. Whereas what we have done is we build it like a full stack solution where you can get the data, build the feature, explore the feature, build the feature. You can build a rule or choose to just pick one of the standard off-the-shelf models that we have. We've been reviewing over 50 million different types of transactions per day, still able to respond back in under 25 milliseconds and less than 1% fraud rate. This is actually a case study from which was published for one of our customers in Japan. Basically, you can see that since they have installed the fraud prevention solution, like basically the credit card fraud rates are 1/4 of what the domestic fraud rates are for this company. In Tag Manager, basically, these are some of the things. This is basically because this is running only on one very small application, but we do like 25,000 events plus per second. We can capture 2,000 plus signals from the device, and 50 billion plus events are received per day. Yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. Yeah, any questions?
Hello, can you tell us more about the algorithm that you use for calculating a credit score for your customers?
Basically, we collect data from all of our transactional sources, so how many transactions they are doing in every category, some of the browsing data, because then that kind of tells you some interest level. And basically, all of this is feeding into an algo for doing the income estimation, right? And then based on that, what we have done is we have built a framework. So credit scoring is interesting. It's an unsupervised problem, right? You really don't know what your gold customer looks like. So what we've done is built a framework where we take a small sample and then we say that, hey, find me the North Star customers, right? And based on those North Star customers, we try to find out the distance for rest of the customers in some hyperplane as compared to those customers. And then you basically try to normalize that and come up with a score between 0 to 1,000.
You've talked about behavioral biometrics, and I feel like you need to get a lot of data from users. So how do you handle privacy?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. So actually, for behavioral biometrics, that's the beauty. You don't really want to get any of their private data, right? So there are multiple modes in behavioral biometric that you can use. So one of the modes, as an example, is how they are typing, right? So when you are capturing how they are typing, you're not really interested in what characters they are typing. You're only interested in finding out the time between the two keystrokes, right? And that's a completely non-PII data. And you can basically, you can create a signature at a device ID level or something like that. And basically you are getting the time between two keystrokes, right? Or the gyro sensor outputs, and then you can store them completely non-PII.